these shall hate the whore. And that's from Revelation 17, verse 16, and I'll read the whole verse. Then I'll come back to it and read a couple of verses above and below the 16th verse of Revelation 17. We're in the time of the fulfillment of these prophecies that are found throughout the scriptures in the Old and in the New Testament, and especially in the book of Revelation, which all the prophecies are being fulfilled right before your eyes. So are we living in Bible times? You're damn right. We're living in the times of the end. It says Revelation 17, verse 16, and the 10 horns, which the 10 horns, now there's about 28, 29 of them, which represent the EU nations. And I always go into that. That was formed in 1957, 58. I believe they received their charter, or they were officially recognized as the EU. At first, it was the EEC, the European Economic Community. Then there was another name in between that, and finally, it is called the EU, which is the EU, European Union. European Union. Anyway, it says here, and the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore. The whore is America. The whore is Babylon the Great, that great city. If you go down, let me see if I'm correct. Right. If you jump down to the 18th verse, Revelation 17, verse 18, and the woman, which is the whore, which thou sawest, is that great city. That great city is America, which reigneth over the kings of the earth. And I'm going to show you that they reign over the kings of the earth. They get the European Union, the EU nations, boots to shaking. Anyway, let me come back to the 16th verse. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, which is America, not the Roman Catholic Church or Vatican City. Anybody that's teaching that, the Most High is not dealing with you. The whore is America. It also tells you that in the 15th verse. And he saith unto me, the waters which thou sawest, a whore that sitteth upon many waters. That's in the beginning of the 17th chapter. Where the whore sitteth are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. 16th verse again. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore. The 10 horns represents the EU nations. Doesn't represent 10 antichrists. There's going to be 10 antichrists. They don't talk about no 10 antichrists. It's talking about the EU nations, which in the beginning were 10 that spread to other European nations. What you got to understand, you have European nations that break off into other nations. Give you 2 examples. You had Great Britain and you had Ireland, 2 separate nations that became one. That's why it's called the United Kingdom, because you have those 2 nations in the roundabout nations of Europe that are part of that bringing together, which make up the UK. But you had those 2 nations. They were 2 separate nations that became one. Then you had Portugal, which came out of who? Which came out of Spain. That's why if you go down to Manhattan to the European Union Consulate, which you used to pass every Saturday when we used to go down on 34th Street, there's a blue flag with 12, I believe it was 12 stars, but it's supposed to be 10 stars. The extra 2 stars came from Ireland and Portugal, Portugal was part of Spain, and Ireland was a part of England, which became the UK. So there's really 10 of them. Anyway, it says 16 verse, Revelation 17 verse 16. And I'm going to get into this article which led me to these precepts. It says, in the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore. The whore is America, not the Vatican City or the Roman Catholic Church. This guy, Elder Barak, said that the whore represents the Roman Catholic Church or Vatican City, which is totally, I'm not saying that he's a liar. I'm saying that he doesn't understand those scriptures. And that was never taught at the Old One West. It says, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. What fire is it talking about? The missiles that they possess. So let me go into the article. I came across a video on RT about this story about Nord Stream 2. So I said, let me look at it. And then it led me to get more into it, get into the news articles concerning Nord Stream 2. And this is one of the reasons why the ultimately the Most High puts it in their minds to do so, to hate the whore, because this is the Most High's program. But there's going to be reasons behind why they're going to ultimately, at first they're going to start it, they're going to try to defend the earth from our Lord and the angels coming down to deliver the elect of Israel, the ones that have not taken the mark of the beast. And I said in previous videos, the mark of the beast is basically a digital all. Read about the all in the law. When you love your master, you say, I don't want to be freed from my master. So a sign of that is to put an all, which is like an earring, in your ear, and that symbolizes, when you see that all, that means you love your master and you're going to work for your master until you die. Because what happened when a Hebrew had Hebrew servants, we can use the word slaves, they worked, the male Hebrew that worked for the male master, pursuant to the law, he worked for 7 years, and then he was set free, and he was given enough substance so he can get servants. And normally what happened back then was, when you was about 12, 13 years old, you left your parents, or you stay with your parents, but you worked for another Hebrew that was rich, relatively rich, and you did what he wanted you to do for 7 years. And in that 7-year period, he gave you, this is what Esau got the severance pay from. Severance means to cut. You know, we're cutting you off, whether we went out of business, whether we are laying people off, whether we're cutting people off. Even if you get fired, they got to give you some form of a severance, depending on how many years you put in. So that's where Esau got that severance pay from. The statute of limitations, he got that from the scriptures, which is the year of release and ultimately the year of Jubilee. So you got your severance pay going back to the time of the law, back in the ancient world. You work 7 years and you receive severance. I'll use the word severance, and you had enough substance to start your own thing. But then sometimes you had fell in love with a Hebrew woman servant, and you had children with that Hebrew woman servant, which made you husband and wife. So when the time of freedom came, you didn't want to leave because you couldn't take your wife, because it's the master, the Hebrew master. He had possession of your wife and your children forever, because you dealt with that woman in when you were in that 7-year period. So for the majority of the fact that the Hebrew slave wanted to stay with his master forever, because he loved his woman and he loved his children, which is the master's property. So he went through the ceremony of getting the oil in his ear. So ultimately, and I said this before, what Esau wants to do is put a digital oil in your right hand or on your forehead. So when the Most High comes back to deliver you, he's not going to deliver you because you're telling the Most High, I don't want to be delivered. I love Esau. All right? Yup, you other camps, you better get with the program. You better start teaching. You better start saying, well, we were wrong. GMS was correct. The mark of the beast is the microchip before it's too late, because you're going to have a lot of scrambling going on. Anyway, it says, this is the article right here. It says European companies back out of Nord Stream 2 U.S. report. And this is the reason why they're backing out. And this is the reason why they're ultimately going to shoot, missiles on Babylon the Great. Not necessarily from this thing that's taking place, but there's going to be a number of things that's going to take place. It says 18 companies have terminated their participation or are in the process of withdrawing following U.S. sanctions. U.S. sanctions. Now, when you look up the word sanctions, it's a form of punishment. Like during the time of the Clinton era, he had put sanctions on Iran, and basically when they needed medical pharmaceuticals, they were blocked from getting it. So a lot of people got sick, and a lot of people died, and a lot of children died. So that's showing you that Esau, he don't give a shit, man. If you're not going in his direction, he'll kill you. He'll kill you. He won't actually necessarily come and kill you with guns or missiles, which he does that anyway. But he'll do it by cutting off something that you need, pharmaceuticals, medication. Anyway, let me finish reading. It says in these nations are in participation or process of withdrawing following U.S. sanctions. Sanctions meaning threat. Like if you continue to deal with this Nord Stream 2, which is a pipeline, I'm going to read about it, which is a pipeline from Russia to Europe, because Russia is supplying oil to the European nations now. So they came together in the pact. So the U.S. is against it because why? Because that's messing up their money, so to speak. It says the U.S. has only imposed sanctions on one company, but has threatened to take further actions, bring more sanctions. It says, so far, only the company operating this pipe-laying ship was faced with U.S. sanctions. But it's a threat that they're afraid of. That's why they're pulling out. It says at least 18 European companies have either terminated their participation of the Nord Stream 2 pipeline or have pledged to withdraw from the project over threats of U.S. sanctions. They're saying, look, we got to back out of this Because if we continue to deal with this this pact or compact with you, or this deal, that we're going to be hurt by U.S. sanctions. According to a U.S. State Department report for Congress, this shows that the legislative goals and our actions have been successful, said Ned Price, a spokesman for the U.S. State Department. So this spokesman is saying, he's saying, see, all you got to do is threaten them, and you can break them up. So in them breaking up, guess what's going to happen? That's gonna bring more anger to them. They're going to become more angrier. Let me read that again. This shows that the legislative goals and our actions have been successful, said Ned Price. And the legislative goals is to bring sanctions against them, whether they need medical, pharmaceuticals, or whatever they may need that's important to the upkeep of their nation. The U.S. saying, look, if you do that, we're gonna cut this off. So they're running scared. As I said, Ned Price, a spokesman for the U.S. State Department, we continue to monitor companies involved in potentially sanctionable acts. In other words, the U.S. representatives are saying, in this case, Ned Price, he's saying, if we're watching you. If you do something that we don't like, we're going to punish you for it, which ultimately will lead to their demise, the demise of Babylon. The State Department submitted a report on the pipeline to Congress on Friday, and a document which has not yet been publicly released. The U.S. has threatened sanctions against several other companies involved in the construction and certification of the roughly 1,200 kilometer or 750-mile gas pipeline in the Baltic Sea. So it's an underwater pipeline, and it goes for almost 800 miles. So there was a lot of work, a lot of construction, and a lot of money put into this thing that they made the deal. So what the U.S. did was throw a monkey wrench in that whole the pipeline itself. And you got a video here. If I remember, I'll leave the link in the description box. You can watch the video, which I'm not going to watch right now. It's about 4 minutes long. Hey, we almost out of here, man. So far, however, the U.S. has only imposed sanctions on the Russian company, that's why ultimately the Medes show, pursuant to Isaiah the 13th chapter, the Medes, they're not going to have any pity for the little ones. Let me read on. It says, which owns the pipeline, the Russian pipeline laying vessel Fortuna. U.S. allies should not be surprised if the administration takes further action, Price said. Work on the pipeline had resumed in December after being suspended for nearly a year as a result of U.S. sanctions. It says construction between Russia and Germany is now almost complete. So they started this project back in 2018. So we're talking about, what, 3 years? So they were almost at the end of the project. And here comes the U.S., Babylon the Great, saying, no, can't do that. No. If you do that, we're going to bring sanctions against you. I keep saying that. It says Germany, Swiss, British firms back out. Most of the companies terminating their participation are insurance companies the majority of which, among them, Munich-based insurer Munich Re Syndicate Limited and Switzerland-based Zurich Insurance Groups, EXA Groups, based in Paris. These are all EU nations except for the UK, which they backed up, but they still do deals with them. But they backed out of the EU. They're no longer an EU nation, and Russia's not an EU nation, even though they're doing deals with each other. And civil engineering group Bill Finger of Mannheim have also terminated their involvement, according to the U.S. State Department. Washington is strongly opposed to Washington, which is the U.S. Babylon is strongly opposed to Nord Stream 2 because they're going to cut them out of the equation. So you got these nations making deals. You have a group of nations called the BRICS nations that they're not dealing with the U.S. It says arguing that the pipeline will create too much European dependence on Russian energy supplies. Both President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump have voiced objection to the project. France and several other European countries have also been critical of the project. Was that France and several other European countries have been critical of the project. Why? Because France and other European nations are afraid of the U.S. It says, however, the German government has maintained its commitment to the pipeline's completion. Why? Because Germany is a strong nation. Despite criticism and pressure to cancel the project over the Russian government's crackdown on Kremlin's critic Alexei that's the guy that they locked up because he wanted to be the next president of Russia. They don't give a damn about Navalny, however you say his name, and his supporters. Let me see if there's more on that. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So anyway, I want to go on to the scriptures. Let's go back to Revelation 17, verse 14. I'm going to read down to 18, the last verse. These shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them, for he is Lord of lords and King of kings, and they that are with him are called and chosen and faithful. You know what I got to do? I got to go jump up to the 12th verse. And the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, that's the EU nations, which have received no kingdom as of yet, but received power as kings 1 hour with the beast. 1 hour with the Most High is approximately 42 years. The EU came into power under, what is that called? The Treaty of Rome. I'm showing you that's Rome. They had a treaty, a bunch of Edomites sitting in a big circle to usher in the EU nations. But it's called the Treaty of Rome. Look up the word treaty. Look up the word Rome. So this is Rome all over again. The second leg of the Roman Empire. It says, in the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings which have no power, which have received no kingdom as of yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. That's 42 years. So we're talking about officially from 1958. 42 years later would be the year 2000. So Esau's time was up at the year 2000. So they're living on borrowed time. They're still in power 20 years later, 21 years later. but their time was up in 2000. It says, these have one mind and shall give their power and their strength unto the beast. The beast represents NATO. So you have NATO nations that are part of EU, EU nations that are part of NATO. So they're breaking up now. 14 verse, Revelation 17 verse 14, these shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them. That's Revelation, the 12th chapter. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and his angels, the dragon. Another thing that Elder Barak said, that Revelation 12, the dragon and Michael and his angels and the dragon and his angels, he was saying that's talking about Satan. No, it's talking about Satan if you're talking about the physical counterpart of the spiritual demon, Satan. It says, for he is Lord of lords and King of kings, and they that are with him are called and chosen and faithful. Who are the ones that are called and chosen and faithful? Us here, the elect on the planet Earth, or the hopefully elect, and the angels. And we are just angels in bodies. 15 verse, and he saith unto me, the waters which thou sawest, where the Hua sittest, America sittest, are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues, great melting pot. 16 verse, and the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore. Why? Because the situations that I just read about, Nord Stream 2, and sanctions against them. And shall make, Daniel 7 says that their look was more stout than their fellows. Look, we're going to bring sanctions against you. So you got a lot of these European nations running scared. Germany is one of them that's saying, nah, we ain't running scared. That's the breakup of this beast. That's the breakup of the feet of it in Daniel 2. And shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. The fire is talking about the missiles. 17 verse, for the Most High have put in their hearts to fulfill his will, and to agree and to give their kingdom unto the beast until the words of the Most High shall be fulfilled. And the woman, which is America, not Vatican City or the Roman Catholic Church, which thou sawest, is that great city. What great city? Babylon the Great, which reigneth over the kings of the earth. Now, how are they reigning over the kings of the earth? By bringing sanctions against them. So now let's go from here. I'm not going to be too much longer on this. This is Jeremiah 51 verse 1. Thus saith Yahweh, behold, I will raise up against Babylon, America, and against them that dwell in the midst of them that raise up against me a destroying wind. That destroying wind is the missiles. And I will send unto Babylon fanners that will fan her, and shall empty her lamb with what? Those missiles. For in the day of her trouble they shall be against her round about. Let me go to the 3rd verse. Against him that bendeth, let the archer bend his bow, which is the bow represents the silos, the arrow represents the ICBMs. And against him that lifteth himself up in his brigandine, and spare ye not her young men, destroy ye utterly all her hosts. Now, to spare ye not her young men, which are in the military, and the women, because you got women in the military. The Northern Army, Joel 2. Isaiah the 13th chapter says paraphrase, says they're not going to have any mercy on the little ones. They shall not be bribed by gold. 4 verse, Jeremiah 51 verse 4, thus the slain shall fall in the land of the Chaldeans, which is America, and they that are thrust through in her streets. Isaiah the 13th chapter says, anyone that's joined to them shall be thrust through by the sword. The sword is the missiles. So that's talking about anyone that's joined with them is these Jakes that's following Esau's, ways, Jake in the military and Jake that have taken that chip. When you take that chip, you have joined the mark of the beast. You have joined yourself with her. So you're going to be thrust through with a sword, Isaiah the 13th chapter. Let me jump down to the 6th verse. Jeremiah 51 verse 6. Flee out of the midst of Babylon and deliver every man his soul. Now, what does that mean? Come out of her, my people, Revelation 18 verse 4. Now, going back to One West with the elders of One West, they taught that you got to get passports because Babylon's going to be destroyed. So we're going to have to hop on planes and we're going to have to get out of here. Then it was found out that we're going to be delivered by what Esau calls UFOs. So when it says in Revelation 18 verse 4, come up out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins and receive not of her plagues, there's going to be an angel that's going to say, come up hither. Revelation 11 chapter. It said, flee out of the midst of Babylon, deliver every man his soul. What man? The Israelite man. And that includes men, women, and children. Be not cut off in her iniquity. That's this. Jeremiah 51 verse 6 goes hand in hand with Revelation 18 verse 4 and also Revelation 11. For this is the time of the Lord's vengeance. So all these scriptures, Jeremiah 50, Jeremiah 51, Jeremiah 49, Isaiah 34, Daniel 7, Revelation, they all go, it's the same story. It's the same event told slightly differently. So Jeremiah actually saw what we're currently living in now. 7th verse, key verse, Jeremiah 51 verse 7, Babylon has been a golden cup in the Lord's hand that made all the earth drunken, right, through their democracy, not through their Christianity. You don't got to be a Christian. These people that go to that gather and assemble for the General Assembly at the UN, you have so-called African nations, Arab nations, and they all have their own religion. So this has nothing to do with Christianity. So the drunkenness is their democracy. It said the nations have drunken of her wine, therefore the nations are mad. So now the nations are mad because this is not the great mosaic. That's all I'm going to read on that. But this is another one of my favorite chapters, Jeremiah 51 and Jeremiah 50. Let me start from the top. Jeremiah 50 verse 1. The word that the Lord Yahweh spake against Babylon, which is America, and against the land of the Chaldeans by Jeremiah the prophet. Jeremiah the prophet. Declare ye among the nations and publish and set up a standard. That's what we're doing now. So it's not just about going out there and waking up Israel. It's about condemning this place, condemning this current world system. And conceal not, say Babylon is taken, Baal is confounded, Merodach is broken in pieces, her idols are confounded, her images are broken in pieces. For out of the north, that's Russia, there cometh up a nation against her, which shall make her land desolate. And it's not just going to be Russia, it's going to be the EU nations, the UK, Germany, the Arab nations. speaks about the Carmanians, and which are the people of the Persians, the Iranians. Those are the ancient name was the Carmanians. And none shall dwell therein. They shall remove, they shall depart, both man and beast. Fourth verse is good too. I'm not going to read it. Let me go to the fifth verse. They shall ask the way of Zion with their faces thitherward, saying, come and let us join ourselves to the Lord and the perpetual covenant. And the perpetual covenant is an everlasting covenant. And that covenant is going to be the new covenant. Are we in the time of the new covenant? No. The time of the new covenant is when we're changed. That shall not be forgotten. It says, my people have been, 6th verse, Jeremiah 50 verse 6, my people have been lost sheep, they're shepherds, and the ones that can't get it, we don't bend our back, we don't bend over backwards for Jake that can't get it. If you can't see it, as the great Yaquab high priest Yaquab said, if a nigga can't get it, we moving on. All right? And Apostle Gabar did a video on that, paying respects to high priest Yaquab. If a nigga can't get it, we moving on. Elder Abba said, how did he say it? He said, if they can't get it, just forget them. Just forget them. So these comedic people coming around wanting to have debate, we don't got no time for debates, man. We ain't got no time to teach you. And when you come into this thing, you got to come into this thing. You got to, the Lord told Nicodemus, you must be born again. So if you coming up here with the Quran in your hand, no, you're not invited. With some comedic book, the 42 negative confessions or whatever the hell it's called, is nonsense. We don't want to have debates with you. None of you Israelites should have debates with these people. You should just cut them and move on. If they can't get it, move on. Go on to the next one. And our job is not to save all Jake. The only ones that's going to be saved is going to be the elect. 6th verse, Jeremiah 50 verse 6, my people have been lost sheep. Their shepherds have caused them to go astray. These are all these other religions. They have turned them away on the mountains. They have gone from mountain to hill. They have forgotten their resting place. You got niggas that fought in World War II in Vietnam. Oh, boy, this is my land. This land is my land. This land is your land. I was born here. I was bred here. And they'll say that they're going to die here. They got the American flag in the living room. They got a picture of their son that's in the motherfucking Navy and their daughter in the Army getting gang banged. So them niggas are going to die, man. It says, all that found them, 7th verse, have devoured them, and their adversaries said, we offend not because they have sinned against the Lord. So they're saying we ain't doing nothing wrong because they're eating pork, bacon, shrimp. They're not keeping the Sabbath. They're not keeping the high holy days. They're not wearing fringes. It says the habitation of justice, even the Lord, the hope of their fathers. Remove out of the midst of Babylon and go forth out of the land of the Chaldees, which is America, and be as the he-goat before the flock, meaning we're going to be in the wilderness. That's a whole nother lesson. For lo, I will raise and cause to come up against Babylon, America, an assembly of great nations. So this verse right here proves that this is not talking about ancient Babylon, but no assembly of great nations. A great assembly of great nations from the north country, starting from Russia, and they shall set themselves in array against her. From thence she shall be taken. Their arrows, ICBM missiles, shall be as of a mighty expert man. None shall return in vain. Oh, let me jump down to the 12th verse, Jeremiah 50 verse 12. Your mother, which is Great Britain, because you were spawned out of Great Britain, shall be sore. The UK will shoot missiles on America as well. Behold, something's going to happen. Something major is going to happen that's going to cause them to say, the hell with this goddamn place. We're going to destroy it. It says that it says in Revelation 17, they shall hate the whore. The hindermost of the nations, which is America, they're on the other side of the world, which is to the west, shall be a wilderness. Why? Because of the missiles. A dry land and a desert, because of the wrath of the Lord. It shall not be inhabited, but it shall, that's in Isaiah 34, round about the 16th verse, shall be wholly desolate. Everyone that goeth by Babylon shall be astonished and hiss at all her plagues. And we're going to have the new Passover is going to be about America. So 1,000,000 years in the kingdom, we're still going to be thinking about Babylon the Great, because we're going to have a high holy day for it, celebrating the downfall of this place. And we might have like a sort of a hologram type of movie where we can actually see, because the angels are going to record it. They're going to record it. They're going to when the missiles are hitting and people are being beamed up, that's going to be recorded. So we're going to be watching that. You know, when we have that high holy day, pursuant to Jeremiah, was that Jeremiah 16 or 14 or Jeremiah 14 and 16? We're gonna most likely see an actual recording of the destruction. The way the prophets of the Lord saw those visions was the same way that we're gonna see the same thing. So they're gonna say, okay, we're gonna put up the recording of Babylon being utterly destroyed. You're gonna see certain angels that's gonna film people running down the street, getting heated up, you know, getting stuck with the missiles. You're gonna see certain people running down the street getting hit with a laser. And you're gonna see this fire all over the place. And on that day, we're gonna be eating the lamb or whatever we're gonna be doing. We're gonna be praising the Most High every year. So 1,010 years go by, we're still gonna be celebrating the downfall of this goddamn place. Because what did we do back in the ancient world when Egypt was destroyed? The Most High said you got to celebrate the downfall of the Egyptians, of Mizraim. So it says in the 14th verse, and I'm going to close on this, Jeremiah 50 verse 14, but put yourself in array against Babylon, round about all ye that bend the bow, shoot at her, spare no arrows, for she have sinned against the Lord. So anyway, with that, I'm going to say shalom.